Do you remember maybe 4 years old and there was these wonderful little connect the dot books? You would get it and you would trace the lines and go from dot to dot to dot. And when you did, the picture would emerge. I would strongly argue that the most important lesson we need to know as leaders occurred when we were four, when we were filling out those dot books. That's what leadership is. Leadership is allowing and enabling our team to connect the dots so that they can see the picture that's being built. They can understand where they fit in. That's the ultimate leadership impact move, connecting the dots. As leaders, we often fail to articulate and simplify the plan so that everyone can see how their work fits into the whole, so they can see where they are in that picture and what they're doing that matters, how it fits in. When the picture isn't clear, that's when waste and friction multiply. That's when silos form. That's when resources scatter. And that's when territorialism really rises. People clock in and they clock out and they lean in, not with energy and ownership, but with transactional focus. How do I get to the end of the day? That's what happens when we as leaders don't connect the dots. In fact, at that point, we're just managing. We're managing process. We're not leading, because leaders cast vision. Leaders make it clear so that everyone can connect the dots in their work. They can understand how their work fits into the whole. That's the leadership super move. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that this should be kumbaya land and that we should all just get along and agree. In fact, I would argue vehemently that that's exactly what we don't want to have happen. But when we have a clear vision, when we have a clear picture, and we invest our time and energy into connecting the dots between where we are and where we want to be and what we need to do, then we can have debate about the right things, the most important things. We can argue vehemently about whether or not the effort and energy that's being invested is moving us towards the place we want to go. We can connect the dots. Everything we do in leadership is about connecting dots. It's about making it crystal clear where we're going, why it matters, what's the plan to get there, and how we're going to fit in. I've got an entire framework on those core questions that I'll address in another episode. But for now, I really want to focus on the power of a leader is to ensure that people can see, they can connect and understand how their work fits into the whole, how their work matters. Now, this isn't something that just happens in the personal life. It happens every day as a professional. One of my first major leadership roles, I was 23 and I was charged with moving a call center from Charlotte, North Carolina to Roanoke Rapids, North Carolina. And we needed to go in and hire 300 people. And I was the only person from outside of the community that was moving to the town. And we had to staff and fill a 24-hour a day, 365 day a year operation. And I remember going in on our third shift and really spending time talking with all of the folks to make sure that they understood that we weren't just answering the phone when somebody's car broke down. That wasn't our job. Our real job, the why behind what we were doing, was to ensure that when someone traveled, they knew that they had a safety net. We were going to be there and we were going to care and we were going to do an amazing job. And it was important every hour of the day. But it was particularly important at night. And our third shift folks were absolutely amazing. They lived and breathed and ate and slept a protection role. They knew that they were somebody's first line of defense. They were somebody's daughter's opportunity to get help on the way home from college late at night when they had a flat tire. That was my job as a leader, to connect the transaction of what we were doing, which was answering the phone and dispatching a tow truck, to the reason we were doing it. We were providing peace of mind. We were protecting someone's family. We were giving them a safety net when they travel. That's what we had to do. Without that, we could easily have devolved into answering the phones, doing the work. We could transact. That's not why we were there. Leadership is enabling everyone to see and understand why we're here, where we're going, and why it matters. It's our job to help people connect the dots. And we have to be able to do this for ourselves first. I don't want to overthink this. I don't want to make this overly grand and say it has to be done at this massive purpose and vision level. No, it's part of what we have to do every day as leaders. We have to connect meaning to our work. We have to enable our team to understand why what they're doing matters. And so here's a 3-part framework that you can use to really bring this leadership superpower, this impact superpower to life, not for you, but for your team. Step number 1, you need to collect the right information, gather the right dots, gather the information you need for the picture. It can be purpose, it can be vision, it can be mission, plans, data, stories, but you need to connect the information. And it can be as simple as, here's where we are, here's where we're going, and here's what we need to do to get there. How can we help fill that? But we have to collect that. We have to have that packaged and ready in a manner that connects with our audience, in a manner that connects with the people that we're leading, in a manner that means something to ourselves, because there's nothing worse than standing up in front of folks and saying something you don't believe. Step number 1, collect the right information, package up the dots. Number 2, you have to cast those out. You have to connect them for the people. You have to put them on the page in the right order. You have to communicate them clearly, consistently, and repeatedly. And I've said this before, and I say it all the time because I believe it and because it's true. When we're tired of talking about it, it's only starting to sink in. And oftentimes we as leaders fall into this trap of believing that because we've said it once, it has been cast appropriately. And that's not the truth. What we have to do is continually repeat the most important things, to do it so many times that they echo. And so that echo carries on when we're not in the room. That's what casting is. We have to communicate all those dots that we've connected in the right order so that our teams can see the picture, so that our teams can understand. We have to connect the information. That's the ability to architect the picture. We have to cast it out. That's the ability to paint the picture. And then step number 3, we have to connect. We have to connect what they are doing, what their work is at a transactional level, and how it relates at a relational level to the image, to the story, to the communication that we are saying. And it can be anything. I remember a conversation once I had with our accounting team in car care, and we had this really clear, vivid purpose as an organization. Our job was to make sure that our customers had peace of mind knowing that their car would be in the best possible condition to get them to where they wanted to go. And a very tangible and real example was, if someone pulls out in front of you, we want to make sure that your car is in the right position to stop, to protect not only yourself, but also those that you love most who are in the car. Well, if you're a technician or if you're a service advisor, if you're somebody who is facing the customer, that's a really easy dot to connect. But how do you do that if you're in accounting? How do you do that if you're in administrative support? And someone asked me that question once in a town hall and said, hey, look, I get what we're here for, but I work in accounting. How does what I do have any impact at all on what you're talking about? And I said, that's a wonderful question. Here's how it works. What do you do? And this particular person was accounts payable. And I said, okay, your job is to make sure that our bills are captured accurately, our invoices are captured correctly, and to make sure they're paid on time and track them down. They said, yes. Okay. That's the transactional element of what we do. Here's what you really do. You ensure that those people on the front lines have access to the right resources and aren't distracted by administrative overhead so they can focus on what matters most, the customer doing the work. By your doing your job exceptionally well, you enable the person who is in front of the customer to ensure that the car is fixed exceptionally well. You enable them to do their job. So don't think for a second that your work doesn't matter. Your work has an incredible amount of meaning, and it's not transactional. It's a big piece of the machine, and it's an important piece of the machine, and it's part of how we are going to get to where we're going. And I could see the eyes light up. I could see the dots connect, literally. I could see the bells going off, and it became part of our ongoing conversation. Every time I visited our accounting teams, every time we had our team meetings, we would talk about how does what you do connect to what we do as an organization. And we would always say, in fact, I would tell teams all the time, if for any reason you believe there's work that we're doing that doesn't have value, that doesn't move us forward, not only are you empowered to call it out, you're expected to, because we have to make sure we're eliminating waste and removing friction. That's part of our job. That's part of what we do as managers in an organization. Eliminate waste, reduce friction. One way to do that is to make sure that everyone understands how they fit in. And how we do that is by connecting the dots. Now I'm going to get on a soapbox for a minute, because one of my biggest pet peeves is leaders who say, well, they're smart people, they'll figure it out. I'm not going to tell them what to do. I'm not going to give them any direction. And then here's the reason this is a big pet peeve for me. That's not leadership. That's abdication. That is ignorance. Because our job as leaders is to make sure people understand the vision. We can hire incredibly smart people and let them figure out how to make it come to life. In fact, Steve Jobs is famous for saying, hey, we don't hire smart people so we can tell them what to do. We hire smart people so they can tell us what to do. But Steve Jobs knew and understood from the core of his being that his job was to connect their work to vision. In fact, there's wonderful videos from 1984 where they're talking about this, and they're talking and interviewing people at Apple about what it was like to work there. I'll find a link to that and put it in the show notes, because it's such an incredibly compelling and powerful story about why vision matters. So my pet peeve is that leaders who say, hey, they're smart people, they'll figure it out. You are not leading when you do that. All you're doing is enabling frustration. You're enabling dictatorship. You're enabling a whole bunch of bad things because you're too lazy to connect the dots, because you don't have them answered in your head. That's not leadership. That's abdication. And it's wrong. All right, so how do you make this apply in the real world? How do you take this, this nice language, this nice little sound bite, and turn it into something that matters and turn it into action? Here's a simple way to do this. In every team update, focus on how do you connect a dot for your team? How do you articulate, hey guys, just as a reminder, this is where we're going. And that way, everything we're going to talk about today has got to be aligned to that. And if it's not, I want you to call it out. Reiterate, reinforce, and remind. We have to do that over and over so that everybody understands. It's not about what we do. It's about how we do it, and it's about why we do it. That's what we're really driving down to. So in every team update, focus on connecting a dot. Articulate why we're here. As a reminder, guys, the reason we're here as an organization is to bring to life our customers' story, vision, whatever it is. Remind them where we're going. All right, 90 days from now, this is our target. I want us all focused on this. And if you don't see us working on the things that matter, throw the flag, let us know. Go down this path, why it matters. What are we doing right now? What's coming next? Here's why it matters. Or we can think about it through the lens of Simon Sinek. Here's why we're here. Here's how we're going to get there. And here's what we do. Think about these frameworks as very simple reminders. Bring it into every team meeting. Just pick one dot. You don't have to be a maestro and architect the entire vision every time. Just a reminder, a simple reminder. Here's where we're going. Here's where we are. Here's what we're working on. If anything is distracting from this, call it out. Is anybody unclear? Raise the hand. Raise the flag. Allow us to see and understand so we can connect those dots. Here's the challenge I would put in front of you. What dots are you leaving unconnected for your team right now? If you weren't in the room, would they be able to articulate without any question exactly why their work matters, where we're going as an organization, and how they contribute to that cause? If they can't, that's your opportunity to collect, to cast, and to connect. That's what you have to do. In our Vision to Victory Leadership Accelerator program, we walk through an entire series of frameworks, but one of the core essence elements that we always come back to every single week, every single module of content is, how have we connected the dots for ourselves so that we can then connect the dots for others? Because when we have ambiguity, everyone else will too. If you're tired of leading at the edge of burnout and trying to make a clear picture out of a bunch of dots on a page, please reach out. Our Vision to Victory Leadership Accelerator program is designed to give you exactly what you need so that you can collect the right information, cast it into the organization, and connect the dots, both for yourself and for others. Thanks for tuning into this solo episode of Leadership Unlocked. If something hit home today, if it challenged you, clarified something, or gave you a tool that you can use, don't just keep it for yourself. Apply it, share it, talk about it with your team. And if you're leading through something tough right now, just know this: you don't have to figure it out alone. That's what this podcast, this work, and this community are all about. Want more tools like this? Head over to arcusgroup.com/podcast or visit arcusgroup.com and join the newsletter. No fluff, just what helps you lead better. Until next time, keep leading with clarity and courage. This is Leadership Unlocked.